Hello, everybody. Welcome to our live stream for Shakespeare Republic, All the Web's a Stage. I'm really hoping you can see me right now because this is breaking new ground for all of us. And so this hopefully will all go to plan. So I'm just going to quickly double check, considering I'm the one who's having to run the tech and do the intros. We seem to be doing okay. So welcome very much to this live stream. I'm excited that some of you have actually made the effort to be here with us live today. Thank you so much for joining us. And I am going to give you some information about the new season and also introduce you to some of our cast. So without further ado, I'm Sally McLean, the creator, director and lead ensemble member of Shakespeare Republic, and I'm so delighted to be hosting this piece of Shakespeare Republic history in the making, our first live stream for the project. Today, we will be introducing you to this special season of the show, as well as to some of our cast whom you'll be seeing in the coming weeks, plying their craft, performing Shakespeare in splendid or otherwise isolation. So what's this new season about? Best start with what we won't be changing. We will still be performing Shakespeare as written because that's how we do things. We'll still be bringing his characters into the 21st century. We'll still be pre-recording each episode, then editing them before release. We will still be remaining true to the characters and their circumstances, just with a modern twist. What's changing? On the major plus side, this situation has freed us up to work with actors who are not just based in Melbourne, Australia, but worldwide, and some of whom you will meet today. And unfortunately, the downside to a degree is that we won't have our amazing crew working with us in their usual capacity due to isolation and lockdown. However, our fabulous cinematographer, Sean Herbertson, is currently putting together a style guide and tech guide for our cast to help them with filming their own pieces, isolation style. And our wonderful co-editor and colorist, Thanasi Panagiataris, will be assisting me with the edit for these updates and color grading them as usual. And we'll be bringing in other behind the camera team members from other departments as well to help our wonderful cast do all the things that they have to do in this brave new world of content creation in lockdown. We will start releasing episodes from the last week in May. That is the plan. If you don't want to miss anything, then hit the subscribe button on this YouTube channel to stay in the loop. We are aiming to release an episode roughly once every 3 days from that time forward. And if you'd like to support this work and the actors and crew involved, you can do so by giving to our Patreon, which you'll find at patreon.com/Incognita Enterprises. The link is also in the description of this video. We're hoping to have enough patrons funding us through that service to be able to pay our actors and team a little bit of cash for their time and talent, as nearly all of them have been affected by the closures of theatres, film and television sets and all the other forms of entertainment creation due to the pandemic. So if you want to support artists at this, let's face it, difficult time, this is one way that you can. Which leads me to the most important part of today, introducing you to the first round of cast for Shakespeare Republic, All the World's a Stage. So without further ado, our first cast member is probably best known to international audiences as Morza from the Matrix trilogy of films, but he has a long list of film, TV and theatre credits to his name. Television roles include Quantum Leap, Space Above and Beyond, The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, The Lost World, Nightmares and Dreamscapes, The Starter Wife, Preacher and Season 2 of Wolf Creek. Movie credits include Queen of the Damned, Strange Bedfellows, Daybreakers, Star Wars Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith, Mao's Last Dancer, Predestination, the cult classic Iron Sky, and most recently, Dora and the Lost City of Gold, Blood Vessel, and Lee Winnell's Upgrade. But he will always be known to us for his multi-award-winning role as Sir Thomas More in Season 2 of Shakespeare Republic, and for his beautiful work as Benedict in our Shakespeare short film, Speaking Daggers. I would like to welcome to the platform, Mr. Christopher Kirby. Hello, Chris.
There you Hello. Are. How are you? Hey, that was smooth.
It was smooth. It was very smooth. Well done. I'm impressed. So you get to sit there now and listen to everybody else's intro because you're first up. And for those watching, the reason I'm also doing that is that what I didn't have in Chris's biog is Chris is also one of the producers of Shakespeare Republic because he's one of the team of Incognita Enterprises and also involved in the writing for season 3, which is a separate season to this one. So for his sins, he gets to therefore come on first and listen to everybody else's. Yes. Everyone else's intro. Great. So our next cast member is an independent artist involved in acting, writing, directing, and photography. She was a member of the Howard Fine Acting Studio Ensemble in 2012, the Monash Graduate Ensemble in 2009, and Victorian College of the Arts Acting Studio in 2008. She is a published poet and performed playwright who holds a Bachelor of Arts degree with honours in creative writing and photography from the University of Melbourne. Recent acting theatre credits include roles in Cocoon, Bounced, Zip Tales, Titus Andronicus, and Speak English or Die. Her direction credits include Kiss Me Kate, The Producers, and Away for Trinity College, and Hamlet and The Tempest for Hartwell Players. To us, she is best known for her beautiful turn as Sebastian in season 2 of Shakespeare Republic and as one of our valued Writers' Room team members and cast for season 3 of the series. May I introduce Phoebe Anne Taylor. Phoebe!
Oh. Woo!
Welcome. So far, everyone. What was that? What was that?
Very weird to hear your bio.
I know, right? I'm just doing this to put you all on the spot because it's fun. So far we are all actually in Australia. Just so that you know, this is so far that this is Australia, and it's 8 o'clock in the morning or just after. But now we're going to cross the world. So our next 2 cast members are a husband and wife team in lockdown together, coming to us live from Los Angeles. She trained at Boston University, Rutgers and HB Studio, where she studied with Uta Hagen, Carol Rosenfeld and Ken McMillan. She's worked extensively in theatre, film and television with Broadway and off-Broadway credits, including Smile, The Cocktail Hour, Other People's Money, Welded, Showboat, Doonesbury, Oliver and My Fair Lady. Her extensive regional credits include the Arena Stage, Huntington Theatre, Cleveland Playhouse, MacArthur Theatre and the North Carolina Shakespeare Festival. TV and film credits include Outcast, Doubt, Scandal, Fresh Off the Boat, Secrets and Lies, Criminal Minds, Castle, Law and Order LA, Torchwood, The Forgotten, Crash, ER, Close to Home, The West Wing, and her recurring role on the NBC hit My Name is Earl. She's also a respected acting teacher working in Wales at the Actors Workshop and the Academy of Musical Theatre, in NYC at HB Studios, Stella Adler Institute, the American Academy of Dramatic Arts, for the Howard Fine Studio in both LA and Melbourne, and for the Screen Actors Guild Conservatory in Los Angeles, San Francisco, and San Diego. She is a frequent guest teacher in New Mexico and teaches her Authenticity Workshop across the country. But wait, there's more. He trained at the American Conservatory. Oh, they're coming back on. Hello, in San Francisco. They've already jumped in. Earned his B. You get to listen to your own bio now on camera, my darling. Earned his BA in theatre at San Francisco State University. Helped establish a summer theatre company in the Sierra Nevadas. Then went on to earn an MFA in acting at UC San Diego. Appearing in over 150 productions, he's worked off Broadway and in regional theatres in Boston, Denver, and California. His theatrical roles have ranged from Puck in Midsummer Night's Dream to Miss Havisham in Great Expectations to Jacob Marley in A Christmas Carol. He is a founding member of the Pacific Resident Theatre in Venice, California, which has won over 25 Los Angeles Drama Critics Circle Awards. His film work includes The Whole 10 Yards, Hope Spring, Suspect Zero, Oh Brother Where Are You, Alienation, Digstown, The Blob, My Summer Story, and Wild at Heart. He is best known to television audiences as Horace Bing, the bumbling telegraph operator in CBS's Dr. Quinn Medicine Woman. His extensive television appearances include guest starring roles on Monk, HBO's Carnival, Seventh Heaven, NYPD Blues, Star Trek The Next Generation, and Hill Street Blues. Please welcome Laura Gardner and Frank Collison. Yay!
That's
I know, and you had to sit through all that, Frank, on camera. Hey, you know, I told you guys it's impressive, and you had to sit there and listen to it with everyone watching you, which I love.
We're old, yeah.
I know. Oh, you know. Welcome from LA.
Hey, thanks for having
much
me.
more civilized hour.
Yeah, same. Thank you.
Yes, 3 p.m. Great. So we've got 2 more. Only two more to go, folks, for the introductions. So bear with me because these guys are worth it as much as the ones you've just been introduced to. So here we go. Our next cast member spent 8 years living and working in London's West End, where his credits include Irving Berlin's White Christmas as Sheldrake, the original UK cast of Disney's High School Musical as Coach Bolton, the original West End cast of The Drowsy Chaperone and Les Miserables, including a performance for the royal family at Windsor Castle. Since returning to Australia, his credits include Twelfth Night, As You Like It, and Hamlet for the Australian Shakespeare Company, Godspell, Assassins, Company, Chess, Guys and Dolls, Promises, Rules for Living, Paris, A Rock Odyssey, and the Australian premieres of Sunset Boulevard, Beauty and the Beast, and Harry Potter and the Cursed Child. He has also appeared in the highly successful Pop-Up Globe in Othello and Much Ado About Nothing. Film and TV credits include the very excellent Mr. Dundee, Wentworth, The Leftovers, HBO, The Divorce, A Journey Through Time with Anthony, Stories I Want to Tell You in Person, House Husbands, Ned, South Pacific, Digital Memory, The Damnation of Harvey McHugh, and the music of Andrew Lloyd Webber's masterpiece In Beijing, the DVD, Singing Love Changes Everything. Regular TV viewers in Australia will also recognise him for his performance as Dr. Brian Ironwood, the face of Beyond Blue's Man Therapy campaign. Please welcome to the stage Mr. Mark Dickinson.
Hi.
Hey, Mark. Hey, Mark.
Hi.
Are you finding this as weird as everyone else?
Yeah,
that I'm singing your praises so much? I know, I love it. It's great. I love watching everyone's face like, oh my God, this is really getting embarrassing now. I'm loving it. It's great because I'm not having to deal with it. I'm just making you go through it. Welcome. We have one more cast member to introduce today. So our final cast member for today joins us from Los Angeles and has worked in films with the likes of Johnny Depp, Clint Eastwood, Steven Spielberg, Harrison Ford, Hilary Swank, and many others. His television credits include SEAL Team, Designated Survivor, Fear the Walking Dead, whoops, that's a very popular show, don't get that wrong, Elementary, Bones, Madam's Secretary, Murder in the First, Desperate Housewives, Cold Case, 24, The Shield, ER, Seinfeld, The Good Wife, NCIS LA and CSI, to name but a few. On stage, he's worked with many theatre luminaries, including Mark Rylance, Margaret Whitten, George Wolfe, Sir Patrick Stewart, Kevin Kline, and many, many more in productions such as The Tempest, Romeo and Juliet, Cyrano de Bergerac, Hedda Gabler, Henry VIII, Merry Wives of Windsor, and Antigone, and has been a regular fixture at the annual New York Shakespeare Festival. Most recently seen as Petruchio in The Taming of the Shrew as part of the innovative The Show Must Go Online. Please welcome to the stage, Mr. Miguel Perez.
Hola.
Hola.
I also got to work with Frank Collison, you know, so.
I'm sorry, yes. Ooh,
yes, you forgot to mention
put that in the bio. We'll amend it on the website. It'll be fine. Don't worry.
Hello, everybody. Happy to see you all.
Absolutely. And I think I am going to give The Show Must Go Online another shout out, because that's actually how Miguel and I met, because, you know, I haven't had my bio read out because I'm not going to do that to myself. But I played Katerina opposite Miguel's Petruchio, and that was only a few short weeks ago, really, that we did that, which feels like ages longer. But
yeah, it was good fun too, I'll tell you.
It really was. It was
the
crazy.
Best theater job. You just sit in front of your computer and declaim and then go get a drink. You don't even have to leave the house. That's
completely correct. And we're very, very funny wigs, as you did, and I got to wear hats. But yeah. So yes, I do give a shout out to those guys, because they're actually that particular outfit are coming out of Edinburgh, actually. No, sorry, Glasgow, I think it is, in the UK, run by actor and director Robert Miles, and they are actually going through all of Shakespeare's canon, all of the plays. And they started, I think it was 6 weeks ago or 5 weeks ago, in the order they were thought to be written. So they bring casts together from all over the world who are doing these play readings by Zoom. However, it's gone beyond play readings. They just did Titus Andronicus, and there was blood and severed limbs. And anyway, yeah, it's crazy what they're doing. It's definitely breaking the mold. So everyone should go and subscribe to their channel. It's very easy to find. It's Rob Miles is the channel, and The Show Must Go Online. So give them a shout out. So now that we're all here, I'm going to kind of also put in context why we wanted to do a live stream today, why I felt it was a good idea. And Chris agreed with me because, you know, he's sensible. just went, yes, Al, that's a good idea. Let's do that. Absolutely. So
Who's
today is a
Chris?
special day for yeah, I love your support. Thank you so much for your support. So today's a special day for a couple of reasons. Firstly, because it is Shakespeare's birthday and death day still in the USA and UK, but also because it's Shakespeare Republic's 5th birthday. So 5 years ago, on April 23rd, we released our first video for the series. Yes, we're five, which was an introduction video, not quite like this one, but again, giving you the background on what this whole new thing, as it was at the time, was called Shakespeare Republic. So if you want to have a look at that, you can find it in the behind the scenes videos on this channel if you want to have a quick look. Not now, just keep watching this, go look at that later. So to celebrate this important day, I'd like to have a conversation about Shakespeare. And I'm going to have this conversation with these lovely people who've have a chat about our relationship. I'm going to start for the floor. I'm going to start with this question, and everybody that's watching, feel free to play along in the live comments as well, because theatre should be interactive, particularly when it's actually Shakespeare Elizabethan theatre. Give me 3 words to describe Shakespeare. And go, whoever wants to jump in.
Raunchy.
Nice, that's a good word.
Poignant.
What was that?
Poignant.
Poignant.
Passionate.
Oh, I like that.
Nutritious.
Insightful.
Nutritious.
Wow,
Insightful.
nutritious.
It's
Bloody.
great. It's great.
I said
Bloody,
sublime.
definitely bloody.
Bloody is a good description. What was that, Phoebe?
I said sublime.
Sublime.
Human.
Yeah. Human.
Yes.
Challenging.
Yes.
Mm.
I'm going to throw in the words difficult and scary. For
Hilarious.
anyone who had, what was that?
Hilarious.
Hilarious. Yes.
Sexy.
I find it interesting. Oh, what was that?
Sexy.
Oh, yep, definitely. I find it an interesting question to ask, because everyone usually has a different take on him. And it's always interesting when you do the 1-word or 3-word exercise to see what people come up with for Shakespeare. And we did this actually with our first group of actors for Shakespeare Republic season 1. Exactly the same exercise on camera when we were interviewing them. And yeah, you got everything from terrifying to, in fact, Alan Fletcher, who was in our first series and second as well, probably summed it up best by saying bloody ripper tales. Which I kind of love. That's one of my favorite. But yeah, we had all sorts of responses. It just kind of shows, I guess, that Shakespeare is relevant in one way or another to just about everybody from the way that he wrote.
Also timeless. No?
Sorry?
Also timeless.
Timeless, yes, is a good word. Exactly. And it is timeless. And that's I guess why we're still performing his stuff now. So I think to give people context, having said that, that first question kind of leads into the second one, and I'm happy to sort of, nominate people to speak about this, as just so we don't get crossover chit chat. But it's always interesting for people to know what actors, particularly, what your first encounter with Shakespeare was. And it's really helpful, I think, to share that, because again, it'll all be different experiences, but there are certain people who come to Shakespeare usually, through high school and maybe don't quite connect. So it's always nice to sort of hear how others did, or if they didn't, what they did to connect so that they're now performing it. So I'm going to start actually with Chris, you, because you've been patiently online the longest.
Of course.
Of course I am. So what was your first encounter with Shakespeare?
High school teacher, Mr. Cross.
Okay.
Had a signed, what was it? It was, oh my God, I can't, Romeo and Juliet. And and he used to have us read it out loud. So, but when you, I took pride in my reading back then. But it was a thing where I got up and I started to read it, but it was almost as if I was just behind, and so this is not making sense. So I was determined to actually, just, barrel in and to make sense of it. Then once I did, it was like, oh, that's what it is, and then, basically I had to tutor everybody else in the class because they were kind of going, I have no idea what you just said. And so, yeah. And that was my first introduction, Mr. Cross.
Mr. Cross, yeah, interesting. And it's, yeah, I think that's a similar situation in many people because it's on the curriculum in so many countries now. Interesting. I love it. Cool. Thank you for sharing that one. Phoebe, what was your first encounter with Shakespeare?
Yeah, I was trying to think about this, and I don't know if I know what my first encounter was, but probably what was like a really meaningful part of my high school years was there was I think it's still in operation, a festival for school kids to take on Shakespeare. And actually, funnily, in a similar kind of way to what we do with Shakespeare Republic, is to take small sections, rehearse them, and make that meaningful for you as a school student. And largely you sort of chose what you wanted to work on and all of that sort of stuff. Of course, I went to an all-female girls' school, and also this was a really good way to meet boys. So, no, I mean, it might have been,
sexy.
well, who said sexy? That might have been one of the ways that sort of hooked us in, my friends and I, who sort of stuck with the program for about 5 years. But as we went on, then we became really fascinated with trying to pick it apart and find something new and something meaningful. And at the time, all of those people through my high school years were my closest and dearest. And yeah, I think that was probably my first meaningful connection, maybe. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah, exactly. No, good. That's true. I think this is interesting because obviously memory shifts, as we know, over time. But I think really the answer to that question is if you remember what the encounter was, that's the first encounter you can remember, then that's the encounter. Do you know what I mean? It means the early ones had no relevancy, but that one is the one that you remember. That's the first encounter. Now that's had to laugh. Yeah, the whole all-girls school drama class has boys. Yeah,
everybody.
I relate. I know that. Excellent. Yeah, anyone that went through that system gets that. But yeah, it's yay that it was something that brought you to Shakespeare, though. So Laura, what would be your memory of your first encounter?
I have a twin, and we were in the same English class, and it must have been, I remember the teacher. He was about 5'6". His name was Mr. Belgio. And my twin and I were not always happy to be in the same class together. And it was, I remember he and I reading Romeo and Juliet together. And I was never a small person. My twin was. And I remember my twin, Mr. Belgio and I reading Romeo and Juliet. We were very dramatic, Mr. Belgio and I reading that. And my twin was extremely embarrassed. But I have to say, I loved reading Romeo and Juliet. And that was my first taste of it. And it was really wonderful to be extremely Juliet, if you know what I mean, even though it was Mr. Belgio. And that was the first, and I didn't do my first Shakespeare until I was 27. And I loved it. I just never had the opportunity to do a Shakespeare play. And my first one was Lady Macbeth. Go figure.
Oh, that's a pretty good one to actually also quite an intimidating one to jump into first off.
I wasn't, and actually it's a good story because I was studying with Uta Hagen at the time, and her words to me were, "Oh, impossible."
We're losing.
So there you go.
Wow.
Yeah, it was a wonderful experience for me.
No, that's
it's the right thing.
Got you back.
Yeah, it was wonderful.
So what did Uta say to you about that process of playing?
Impossible. That's what she said. Impossible. It wasn't impossible. It was a wonderful experience and very magical and terrifying. And my Macbeth walked off the stage one night in rehearsal. He left the stage with the daggers. They had to go running after him. And I do know that was the performance that when I was rehearsing, I did realize I was not going to wear contacts as Lady M because they popped out and I couldn't find them with the blood on my hands. But it was
Out damn contact.
yeah.
Oh, damn, right?
That's true. That's true. It was no, I fell in love with Shakespeare. And I did do the piece that I'm doing. I'm not going to give it away, but the piece that got me this Lady M is the piece that I'm doing for this for you, for Shakespeare Republic.
Yeah.
You know, it doesn't go
Good
away.
job.
Yeah, it is the same piece. It has not left ever. Thank you, Shakespeare.
Thank you, Shakespeare.
Thank you.
But that's the other thing too. I mean, you having done the Scottish play, yeah, that sounds pretty cursed to me as a production. I swear, the amount of stuff that goes wrong on that production. I've done it twice in two different ways, and it just, yeah, it really is. I did a whole short film about a community theatre group doing that play, and it was just done for catharsis, where we just wrote everything that could have gone wrong, went wrong. And finally, it was called Why Must the Show Go On? Because I needed to deal with the trauma of doing that play.
Oh my God.
Great, that's excellent. Excellent. So Frank, what was your first encounter with Shakespeare?
Well, it was with a Scottish play, actually, and something went wrong. I just come off I was 12 years old, something like that. I just come off a 2-month run of playing the woolly mammoth and Skin of Our Teeth with my father playing Antrobus in Richmond, Virginia. So I was cast as Fleance, who, he's Banquo's son, I think. And the deal is they're trying to kill my dad and me, but I get away. And we were doing it in a band shell, an outdoor amphitheater that had a concrete band shell behind us. And there were only 2 exits, stage left and stage right. And there were real doors, steel doors. And I was supposed to escape, and my father's yelling, "Flee, Fleance, flee." And I go to the door, and someone has propped something against it and blocked it. The door will not, I cannot get out. There's only one other way to go. And that's over the front into the orchestra pit. Fortunately, there was a box hedge lining the entire front of the orchestra pit. So I'd done this before as a kid. I just leapt face first into the box hedge and splayed myself out to distribute my weight, landed in the box hedge, and rolled off into the orchestra pit and got away.
Oh,
That was
my
something.
But the other experience I want to tell you is fast forward to graduate school, and this wonderful director named Eric Christmas. He was in a lot of stuff. But anyway, he comes to me one day. He says, "We're doing Romeo and Juliet. I want you to play the apothecary." He says, "Don't read the play. Don't read the play." Who is this boy? He wants some drugs. You sell it to him. Don't read the play. That's it.
Oh.
So I didn't.
So you didn't. Any
Oh.
excuse?
Why bother?
Okay. My director said that I need to read the
Don't
play.
read the play. Who is this boy?
Who is this boy? That's great. Oh my God. So that's colourful encounters with Shakespeare there too. Glad to see you survived all of that. Sounds like it may not have been the case. Good Lord. Yes. See, things go wrong. That Scottish play, I swear, it's why I'm loath. I mean, Chris and I have been talking about adapting it for screen, and we keep putting it off. I just keep going, oh, I don't know if I want to invite that in. Really, it's a bit too.
You know, you mentioned Alan Fletcher. I believe he was the director of a production we did at Pacific Conservatory of the Performing Arts of the Scottish play, and I played the first witch. And the design concept was Hieronymus Bosch. And so
you're thinking of Alan Fletcher, the designer, yes.
Right. No, Alan Fletcher,
okay.
Alan Fletcher, the head of ACT, Julia Fletcher's father.
Different Alan, but I want to hear this because I'm intrigued.
Never mind. Anyway, I just played the first witch, and it was the whole design concept was Hieronymus Bosch. It's really interesting.
That would have been cool.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah.
And also prone to a hell of a lot of things going wrong. Sorry, straight when my brain goes. Anyway, thank you for sharing that, Frank. That's awesome. All right, well, Mark, it's your turn then. So what was your first encounter with Shakespeare that you can remember?
I think like Phoebe, it was more about what was the one that impacted me. I did read Shakespeare in high school in English literature classes, and most of it was listening to really old BBC radio recordings. That most of it went over my head. And then I did a classical music degree, and there was occasional study of the Verdi operas, but like Othello and Falstaff and the Scottish play, but I was too busy learning the music to really get an understanding of both the music and the text. So I really didn't come into Shakespeare until much later in my life. At the end of my time in London, I lived there from 2004 to 2011. And I wanted to come back to Australia with something in my pocket that was intrinsically British about my experience there. And I thought, well, what better place to study Shakespeare? So I found a really wonderful teacher by the name of Simon Coates, who's got RSC credits as long as his arm. And he taught me the fundamentals of it, and took me to the Shakespearean gym, really, and just helped me break it all down and understand it. And the monologue that I'll be doing, the first monologue that I looked at with him as well. So it's my first understanding of pulling apart and understanding a Shakespearean monologue is what I sat with him in his living room in London, and that's the monologue that I'll be doing as part of this, which, you know, is really exciting. So that's my first real understanding. And then moving back from London, here I managed to just do Shakespeare after Shakespeare in the gardens at night under the stars through summer, and then the Pop-Up Globe. So it's been a very late kind of move into Shakespeare, but I've been very fortunate that whilst it's been late, it's been a lot. So it's been really, really nice, and being able to combine the singing with the Shakespeare as well, and the musical aspects of Shakespeare is what really helped me break it down, understand it, and kind of being able to integrate the two is really great.
Yeah, absolutely. I think again, it's that thing. If you have a talent for music, you have a talent usually for language because of rhythm and sound. And but I think yeah, well, I mean, I saw you at Pop-Up Globe in Much Ado About Nothing, and also then in Othello, actually, in both of them. And was it Othello that you sang as well and performed?
Yeah, so I was just random soldier on the left who happened to, instead of carry a spear, carried a guitar. So yeah, that was I was Don Pedro in Much Ado, which was a very different beautiful production, but music was a really big part of that production. It was told through the Maori and Samoan culture, which was just exquisite. So the music was a really huge part of that. But yeah, Othello, not second spear carrier on the left, but first guitar carrier on the left.
Exactly. So it's a talent that's very useful and gets exploited by directors quite regularly, because you already know that I'm talking to you about doing music in season 3. You will get to talk as well. It's
okay,
fun, yeah. There will be music because we also, I mean, we've done that with Shakespeare Republic as well, because we do everything in a modern 21st century setting. We also have we've done it already with Speaking Daggers, where we've taken a song from As You Like It and put it into a modern composition, which was done by Jaron Natoli, who was 17 at the time when he did it and had done no Shakespeare, but we gave him the lyrics and said, can you write something? And he wrote just this beautiful song. In fact, guys, if you're watching, it's somewhere on this channel, you will find the music video for that with Jaron's work, which it's just truly amazing. So yeah, I love that you came late to it. And in the sense that, I don't know that you did, I think with the music, because you did opera and musical theatre and that sort of stuff, but obviously doing the opera versions, I think probably you knew more than you knew.
Yeah, maybe, but I definitely didn't come to a greater understanding of it until much later in life, which is nice. It's been a nice kind of path for me to go on over the last 5 or 6 years. Really, it's been really nice.
Absolutely, thank you for that. And Miguel, lucky last. So, what was Mr. Shakespeare? What was your first encounter?
I was just a boy. I grew up in a household where Spanish was the first language, and my father was just bound and determined that my sister and I would speak perfect, unaccented English. So in order to further that goal, he required that we would stand up and do, dramatic speeches in English before starting dinner. And so it was upon me to learn and to do Hamlet's soliloquy. So I would have to sing for my supper. I would have to do Shakespeare for my supper. And if it's came out in a Spanish accent, then I had to do it again until I got it right. But that sort of set off my puzzle solving mind, because there was all this about the speeches that I didn't understand, and I got out the dictionary. I tried to figure out what was going on. I tried to learn. I tried to suss it out and decode it, and I wasn't always successful. But later on in life, I found the right resources, and I learned the right questions to ask, and the right places to go to find the answers, and it just sort of stuck. I just continued doing it, And my first performance in Shakespeare was in the Scottish play. I played the wounded sergeant at Act 1, Scene 1.
Yeah.
From the knave to the chaps.
Great. Oh my goodness.
It was a good bloody one too, covered with gore and passing out and holding my guts in. Just loved it. I always liked the ground guignol aspect of Shakespeare.
Well, I mean, exactly. Because I mean, again, if we put it in the context of, he was presenting this work for Elizabethans who would go to hangings as entertainment.
Bull baiting, bear baiting.
Yep.
Drawing and quartering. Hey, good fun.
Yeah, right. Yeah, good clean fun for the whole family, no less.
It's something to do in the afternoon.
Sounds like modern politics.
Yes, it does. Let's not go there, but yes, yeah, absolutely. I think it's a really interesting thing. My first encounter with Shakespeare was high school. It was year 7, so first year of what would be junior high in the States, and I was handed Romeo and Juliet. So as Phoebe mentioned, I think it was Phoebe. No, who was talking about Romeo and Juliet? Yes, it was Phoebe. And yes, sorry, also Laura. Interesting. That's interesting. How come the girls have all got Romeo and Juliet and boys have got
Christopher too?
Oh, Chris too. That's okay. I was about to go, that's sounding a little gender biased. The girls not getting the Scottish play first off. Anyway, and so, of course, it was read it out in class, which is not good. And I have a real problem, and I hope to goodness no English teacher is doing this anymore. But that thing about, here's a book you've never read before in a language you've never seen before. Now, please stand up and read that in front of everybody, so your peers. And you add into that I'm dyslexic, you can imagine how much fun that was. So I was pretty much told after 2 minutes of stumbling through the text and not getting it at all and not being able to read it, to just sit down and stop wasting the class's time. And at that point, Shakespeare was it for me. That was it. I was done. Did not want to ever touch it again. I, in fact, went through my entire high school years going, I'm going to be an actor. I'll just won't do Shakespeare, because you can be an actor without doing Shakespeare. It'll be fine. And here we are today. But what did that is what others have mentioned, which is a really good Shakespeare teacher and somebody who demystified it, but also helped me find that personal connection to the fact that he did write about people who lived, he wrote about human nature, and finding the way to decode that in my way, that made sense to me. And part of that was understanding the history. And luckily I was also in London. So Mark, I get you on the London connection. I trained in drama school in London, and I just happened to land with a really good Shakespeare teacher who said to me, you're living in the city he lived and worked in, so why don't you go for a walk where he used to walk? And that actually is what brought it home for me. I suddenly went, oh, it's all real. It's not some sort of mystical thing in a faraway land. I'm actually standing on the ground of the pub where he would have had a drink, and I'm standing in the church where he would have worshipped, and it just made a huge difference. And they were building the Globe Theatre at the time. So that's going back a while. But they were building the Globe Theatre in South Bank. So I actually got inside the Globe Theatre while they were building it, because I was also given the dissertation subject, Elizabethan Theatre. Thank you, universe. So I was getting totally bombarded with Shakespeare by that stage at drama school. And but the good thing was I got allowed inside the theatre while they were building it. So I got to talk to the architects about, you know, what Elizabethan theatre was at the time, how it all worked. That whole opening up of the world to me is what got me suddenly, I don't know, just suddenly being able to either I think it was the determination kicked in to understand what he was writing about, and to then decode it properly, because I suddenly realized it was history as well, and that these people existed. And then here we are today, X amount of years later. So now I direct it and do these crazy projects. Anyway, so that's my background. So I think it's interesting, and it's good for people to hear that, because if anyone's out there watching this and they're saying, oh my God, I just can't, Shakespeare, I just don't know, and I'm just here out of curiosity, it's okay. There's no one way into it. You just need to find your way into it, and just find good guides and mentors and teachers, because you will manage it, you will crack it, no matter what you think of the obstacles. It's just a matter of having the right people that are not going to shame you for not getting it. That's the point, really. Anyway, cool. All right. Well, I'm thinking we could be here for hours. So I guess I'm just going to throw this to the floor, and whoever wants to answer it can. But why, I mean, we've sort of touched on it already, but why do you think Shakespeare is still relevant today, considering he wrote over 400 years ago? Anyone want to take that?
Yeah, I'll go ahead, Frank.
Go ahead, Miguel.
Oh, all right. Well, I'll go fast, and we'll both go. Some very clever person said that that the Shakespeare canon is really the instruction book for human beings, and I don't know, when somebody writes jokes that are still funny 400 years later, you know that he was probably writing jokes about what it is to be a person, you know, and oddly enough, being a person now is not all that different from being a person then, especially now that we're in the middle of a plague, you know, something that Shakespeare lived through, something that all the people he knew lived through, and here we're living through it again. So, you know, it isn't really a big leap to find the things that are intrinsically human in the canon. I always go back to Falstaff and Master Shallow and Henry IV Part 2, just sitting there talking about the old days, you know, and then Shallow going away, and Falstaff says, I don't know that guy. I don't remember him. Who the hell is he? And that's about as human as it can be. You know, that's about as funny as human beings can be. How about you, Frank?
You're putting me on the spot. There was a line in Lear that I used to use at parties when someone would ask me what my sign was. I would say, this is the excellent foppery of the world. When we are sick and fortunate, often the surfeits of our own behavior, we make guilty of our disasters as sun. You know this line, Christopher, you could say it. Say it with me. We make guilty of our disasters the sun, the moon, the stars, as if we were knaves, thieves, and treacherous by spherical predominance, drunkards, liars, and adulterers by divine thrusting on. I should have been what I am had the maidenliest star in the firmament twinkled on my bastardizing. So I would use that to say, essentially, I don't believe in astrology. This woman one day, she said, what's your sign? I said, I'm a Taurus. And she went on and on about why I was a Taurus. And I said, well, actually, I'm an Aquarian. And she said, that is just like an Aquarian to lie about their sign.
Oh, you can't win.
To bring it to the piece that I'm doing, Prospero, he's isolated himself with his daughter for 15 years, and suddenly she is introduced to mankind, and she says, what is the line? She says,
oh, brave new world that had such creatures in it.
Yeah, thank you. Did you play the role, Miguel?
Yes,
right there.
The art of makeup is not dead.
Nice feed.
But I imagine when we get released from this, if you live in Georgia, it'll be tomorrow. But when we get released to this, that we'll look out and we'll say, "Oh, brave new world." Anyway, so you open any page and you'll find something relatable.
Yeah. Absolutely. Anyone else want to jump in on that thought?
I just think the simplicity of his language was really is simple. The relationships are all there. The passions that, and I said passion before, that the problem with so much of the performing of Shakespeare and the fear of Shakespeare is that people think it's not just normal people. It's just regular people, and the language is so beautiful that when people try to act Shakespeare, they're leaving the truth, and his plays are about the truth.
Human beings, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, there is a perception that Shakespeare, yeah, exactly what you said, you have to act Shakespeare, and in reality you just have to ground Shakespeare, and the rest will take care of itself. If you know who that person is and you've worked that out, and that's just homework, the words will actually come much more naturally, because it's all driven by character. Yeah, 100% agree. It's awesome. Anyone else that want to say anything, or are we going to move into the fun question?
What's the fun question?
Well, the fun question is, because I'm a history buff and love this stuff,
Oh,
which again,
right,
I wasn't until I got Shakespeare. But if you, and my dad's an historian, so that's even more funny that I didn't like his, well, maybe not, maybe. Anyway, I didn't like history till I got Shakespeare. But if you could speak with Shakespeare today, what is the one question you'd like him to answer about his life or work?
Are there any other plays?
Yes, good question.
Yeah, I would say, will you please settle this argument? Did you write all this shit?
Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking too.
Did you write the King James version of the Bible?
Which is another point that gets debated as well. Yes, because he would have been around during that time.
For me, I would.
Sorry, Phoebes. Yeah.
No, I was going to say, for me, I would ask a favor, which would be, can I intern essentially on your process? So to go from inception of idea through these writing of plays, which would happen over 2 weeks maximum, at the same time they're rehearsing, and to see how that brain sort of ticked over and how those words came out and what the observation was, and I to be a fly on that wall would be changing, you know?
Yeah, definitely. I think it's interesting too, because the question I would ask him is, well, I've got several, but one of them would be, did Kit Marlowe really die from a dispute over the bill in a pub in Deptford, or was that, yeah, that's right, with a knife to the eye, or was that actually him being taken out because he was a spy? Because that's a big history question. But also what it was like to be such a maverick. And how did he manage that? Because he got a lot of flack from the other playwrights, particularly the established ones that were there before he sort of hit the scene, to the point where people were publishing pamphlets dissing him. Because Robert Greene, being a good example, who basically said he was a player's heart in a tiger's hide. I mean, that he was just basically, which was a play on I think it was one of Marlowe's, or actually one of Shakespeare's plays, but basically saying he had no right to be a playwright at that time because he wasn't a university man.
Sally, what did you say he called him? A player's what?
I think it was player's heart. It was, no, sorry, it was a no, it wasn't. I've got to get the wording correct. I can't remember now. It was something in a player's hide. So it was actually a play on his line about the tiger's hide. Robert Greene was basically saying he was a fraud.
Oh, put down. It was a put down.
It was a total put down. Yeah, it was put down. It was saying to him, you are not trained in university technique of writing. You are a fraud. You should not be writing. You shouldn't be a playwright. Everybody else at the time was Oxford or Cambridge trained, and he'd only done grammar school. So he was seen as a real outsider. And he dealt with essentially the equivalent of trolling that we deal with online now. Only they were bold enough to do it to his face. I mean, they did the pamphlets, I guess, which is the online equivalent we have now of trolling, but which were released to everybody. But also, people, they were highly critical of him. And he still managed to create these incredible works and just keep going. And yeah, I would be interested to know how much that affected him, or did it spur him on? I suspect it spurred him on because he kept writing. And also the fact that he was our first actor entrepreneur.
Mhm.
He
So how
made
did
a
he
pretty
manage
penny
that?
too.
You know, he was a really smart cookie. There's lots of things I'd ask him because he had an extraordinary career. Was there any other question anyone would want to ask him? I mean, you know, we'll see if we can channel a medium or something. No, we won't. But any other questions?
Mark, you haven't spoken.
Yeah. Who do you see playing yourself in movies down the track? Explain what the hell.
Not Ben Affleck.
So yeah.
Wait,
Not Ben Affleck.
Just Fiennes playing you in a film, you know.
but his contemporaries or our contemporaries?
Yeah, well, if I ask him who he saw playing him in a film, I then would have to explain the details of what a film is. It would be
That would take a long time.
Yeah.
That's very funny.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So I guess I'm going to ask the last question because we're getting ready to wrap up. But so I guess the last thing is what is it that attracted you to the idea of this kind of project, the Shakespeare Republic, All the Webs of Stage project, or being a part of something like this? Was there anything in particular that the way that we do things that or whatever that you thought, yeah, I'd like to have a play with that? And obviously Phoebe and Chris have already dived in with this work, but I'm never asked them this question before, so it'll be interesting to hear the answers. But you know, is there anything in particular that you're looking forward to as well with your episodes coming up?
Well, I am going to say,
Yes.
and you didn't coach me on this, is that having known you for, I think it's 6 or 7 years now, that I have wanted to be a part of this for 6 or 7 years now, however long you've had it. And had, so when I saw this, I jumped at it because I admire you and Chris and Phoebe, you know, to come from having been a part of the magic of the studio in Australia and then to be a colleague, because that's the best part of having been a coach. To be a colleague is the best. Oh my God, it's incredible. And to I love Shakespeare, and to taste that and the work I've done in the last few years, the last Shakespeare I did was about 9 years at the Botanicum, Mistress Quickly, and I did Mistress Page, but to do, to do that and to do it in quarantine, and then to be able to bring Frank along is what a gift. It's just extraordinary to do that at this time, because we're doing another project, a web series where Frank's playing a hillbilly and I'm playing a snob from Connecticut. It's slightly over the top. So to do something that's Shakespeare and doing the truth is really quite wonderful.
Can I do Prospero with a Cajun accent? Is that okay?
Totally fine. Go for it.
I wouldn't expect nothing less.
Well, since Laura spoke, I'll add my 2 cents. It scares the hell out of me to do this. I haven't done, the last time I did Shakespeare was Merry Wives of Windsor on the Santa Monica Pier. And that was a great experience, modern dress. And the homeless guys, I built the set, the homeless guys were living underneath the set. And so when I would come out to work on the set, I'd knock on the set and say, hey, I'm starting work. And so they said, what is this for? And I said, oh, we're doing Merry Wives of Windsor. And they said, what's that? This is a play by Shakespeare. It's very fun. It's comedy. You should come see it. It's free. And so they came every performance in the daytime. And then after the show, they'd hang around back and they'd say, hey, you didn't get as good a laugh as you did last time.
Great.
So that was
Bring your own critics. Awesome.
That was Shakespeare Light. But it's a challenge. I mean, as I'm truly frightened to do this again. And also, the other reason is because I have a beard, and it seems to get more work than I do. So why the hell not? So I'm just enjoying the process. Thank you.
No, thank you, Frank. I think it's totally cool. I got to tell you, I think that fear response is kind of normal and healthy. To be honest, I think it's healthy to have that sudden moment of, okay, I'm not quite sure what I'm going to do here, because it means that, you're going to come from an authentic place, because you'll do the homework apart from anything else.
Well, I try not to read who's done the role of Prospero recently, or to watch them do it.
No, don't.
Oh, you have. Oh shit.
Oh, well, that's not right.
I'll be watching you, Frank.
Don't
I'll be watching
watch
your every move.
Don't watch me. Now I'm even more frightened. I'm really frightened.
you'll be
publics.
emailing saying you didn't quite get the laughs from me that
Yeah, I
Oh
don't
Maybe
know if
you
I
should
would
have
have done
said
it
it like
that way.
you. Oh, that was a choice. Oh, okay. Yeah. No.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
Oh my God. All right. As director, I say right now, no one's allowed to flame each other. I'm kidding. I know you won't. I know you won't do that to each other. But yeah, I mean, I think the fear response is normal. I mean, we all go through that, and the conversation is funnily quite common, where even when people know the piece they want to do, it's still trying to work it out, so that, particularly putting it in a modern context, so that you're still being authentic to the source. And not imposing ideas and things on it that don't work. So, you know, putting aside how long you've done Shakespeare, there's always something to be anxious, to be slightly nervous about. So I love the whole fear the fear and do it anyway. I think it's really important. I think it's awesome. Thank you, Frank, for joining the party. And thank you, Laura, for bringing Frank to join the party and for being so good all these years. I'm so glad I get to play with both of you now. Yay. So who else has got anything to say? And you don't have to, but if anyone's got anything else to throw into the mix for that question about what you're looking forward to doing.
I've got a couple of things that sort of sprung to mind. One which is, and I'm, you know, again, also not studying up on the teacher's notes, but like I genuinely adore working with you, Sal. So when that came up in this strange circumstance that we find ourselves in, where we're going, is there going to be any work? I was like, yes, I would like to do that. So that's number one. But
I'm laughing every time someone tries to pay me a compliment. The internet starts. It's the universe making sure I don't get a huge ego. Anyway, fine, keep going. Yes.
But then the other part of then this is the challenge, I guess, of filming and being directed but not in the same space, and how does that work? So that's a curiosity thing. But as a much broader overview of the world and what's happening, what I'm finding increasingly fascinating is people's innate sense of creativity. Whether that's from the Australian thing where as people are taking bins out, they're getting up in costume just to entertain their neighbors, through to, you know, the people who have never made bread in their lives. And so now they're making sourdough and that's become part of their process. And I feel like there's a real return to lightness and creativity as a way of surviving through this. And particularly as theater makers, which primarily most of us have come from, even if we are working in a filmic space, it becomes really difficult because you don't have that immediate interaction with people. So is what we're doing still theater? Is it not? And where do those lines blur? So, you know, I've for my creativity, I've been doing more or less a photography project every day just to sort of mark time. But I really also have been looking for ways to involve in what I would say is my core creativity as well. So this is perfect for that. And that's that.
Bless you, darling. What's your Instagram handle that people can go and follow for your photos?
Very creative. Things from ISO, all one word.
Say again.
Things from ISO.
Phoebe's doing some very creative work.
It's just silly. It's just silly, but it's fun.
Well, Phoebe's also a photographer, so, you know, and so she's obsessed with light. So you'll see a lot of, but it's cool. There's some really fun stuff that you're exploring there. So that's why I'm, you know, definitely give that a plug. Everyone go follow it on Instagram. Things from ISO.
Just clicked follow right now.
So anyone else want to jump in with thoughts?
I heard a legend once.
Has my signal gone strange?
No, it's just me stammering.
Sorry, say that again.
I heard a legend once that that John Barrymore arrived at a theater in Buffalo, New York once, crazy drunk and screaming, "What's the play and where's the stage?" and doing this kind of thing, this internet thing, made me think of that, because in effect, even though we're part of an ensemble, each of us is an actor manager. You know, we're sort of in charge of our tech, we're in charge of our camera, lighting, sound, and yet we have to sort of blend it in with everything else. And I don't know, it's fun and it's interesting, and I can't resist. So, you know, it's a chance to sort of like do Shakespeare, which something I always loved doing, but to do it on one's own terms, but at the same time in conjunction with a company. It's brand new. It's exciting. I don't know who's doing it this way. I think maybe Shakespeare's company did it this way a little bit. They would just sort of show up on the appointed day and they'd have calmed their lines and, you know, get out there. So everything old is new again, and I find it deeply exciting.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks, Miguel. I'm so glad to be able to bring you into the mix with this too, because and this is the thing, you know, I love that isolation and lockdown, what's going on right now, on one hand so limiting, on another it means I get to work with all of you lovely people wherever you are in the world, and that's not something we'd normally get to do with this. Normally we'd be working with actors that are only based only based in Melbourne. So I kind of course it does mean that now we want to put it on the road and go overseas and shoot. Yes, exactly.
Sally, you know, what Miguel said about being your own actor manager, I found a prop. I want to get your approval. Can't see the whole thing, but this is a staff. Can you see it?
Okay.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
It's a staff. Don't you think that would
That's
work?
very cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Very
Welcome to our
Gandalf.
rehearsal suddenly jumped into everyone.
It's a good likeness too.
Yeah, I've had this for about 40 years. Someone made it for me and I've never used it. It's the whole staff
cool.
like this. Yeah. So what do you think?
Very cool.
Think it's okay?
Yeah. Why not? Yeah, absolutely. Why not? We'll
Okay. Do we have a budget? But
further how that can work, but I do like it very much.
Do we have a budget
absolutely.
for a storm?
Was there anyone else who wanted to jump in with anything?
No.
Oh, sorry.
I'm done.
Apparently we do have rehearsal, Frank. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Do we have a budget? Yeah. Why? What do you?
For a storm, of course. Somebody just froze. She just
don't know
froze.
About that.
I think so.
Sure.
Yes.
Have to look into
she heard money and she froze.
I think,
we're all freaking.
Wait, that's the producer move, isn't it? Oh, anyway.
I think just flipped all the order of the windows. I think my internet connection. People are coming online now because we actually lost our internet connection. So I'm on a wireless. I don't know what it is. Anyway, it doesn't matter. Is anyone else want to say anything before we wrap up?
Well, I'd like to say that. Well, first of all, thank you. And second, you know, it sort of goes back to that time when, you know, when I first started reading Shakespeare, and it just made, you know, at first it just didn't make sense until I started to see the pictures, you know, and, you know, it's that thing of, you know, when someone says, oh, you'll never get this, you know, and I know for me to sort of actually overcome that, you know, what obstacles I had to overcome in order to get it. And I, you know, and I always tell people, I said, look, if I can do it, I think anybody can do it. And I think that's true, but it's like anything else. You just have to get, you know, insight to what you're actually doing. You know, it's like, you know, it's that thing of, you know, when, you know, that's one thing I'll never tell anybody, oh, you're stupid or you this, because I know what that feels like to actually be told that. But at the same time, you're not. The question is, you just don't have, you don't see that part of the globe yet. You're not seeing that part of the light's not shined upon it. And so, and I know for the particular piece I'm going to do, it scares the hell out of me because there's a lot of stuff going on. But for some reason, every time I was reading this passage, I couldn't get away from it. Can
you tell us what you're doing? What do you?
Oh, it's all secret.
We're trying to keep that a bit quiet, Frank. You've already given away your bit now. That's okay. We can give peeks for those people who bothered to watch and tune in.
It's
sorry.
Yeah. So I know for me, it's you know, it's always a challenge, beyond scary, you know, and it's always that thing of, you know, even when, you know, I did the Thomas More thing, I was like, okay, where is this coming from? But it wasn't until I actually, you know, I used a bit of a transference on that. But once it clicked in, I was like, of course that's what it is. And then it just flowed, and I didn't have to question it, you know. Yeah, and so yeah, that but it's scary. It's scary as hell, you know. And so yeah, I'm actually quite petrified, to tell you the truth. And so
You should be.
oh, trust me. Where's Chris? Oh, he's underneath the desk. Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, and so yeah, and I'm looking for, but it's always the it's, you know, it's the puzzle, you know, and there's the challenge, you know, you sort of get little clues into the puzzle, and I go, you know, and sometimes you go, that's not it, is it? No, it's not it. No, you know. So anyway, that's what I have to say. Anyway, I'm sorry, I'm going to have to leave early because I have to go. I have to go help my daughter teach online. Yes, I know.
Sorry, what?
Yes. I have to go help Georgia teach.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
So that's what happens when families are in lockdown and people are teaching.
Yes, and so she's online, and so I have to go. I got to go help her.
I don't know. I guess we can let you leave.
And
you've got to go help her. So for those, yes, Georgia being okay.
Yeah, I know.
But yes, we are. Well, if Georgia's still in the country, she might also be a part of the next project, which is Dark Arcadia. Anyway.
Yeah.
But yes, of course, if you have to leave. Mark, did you want to say anything before we wrap this up?
The thing that I guess I'm excited about is there were some parallels with Shakespeare Republic and my kind of Shakespeare awakening. So Shakespeare was really at the forefront of what I was thinking and doing and experiencing after returning from London, and during that, your world exploded, and so it was on my radar. So my desire to do it and be a part of, how else can I do Shakespeare? Where can I do Shakespeare? Because there's not a lot of opportunities to do Shakespeare in Australia. The state theatre companies do some, and Bell Shakespeare Company, but unless you're really in them, you don't get much of a look in. So it's Shakespeare Under the Stars every summer, which is lovely. What else can I do? And so this appeared on my radar. I was like, I want to be a part of that somehow. And then I was trying to look at developing just a film version of a monologue myself, and how I could kind of build that, and what of Shakespeare's monologues spoke to me the most in terms of how it reflected what society was dealing with and going through on that at that moment. And it turned out to be the Thomas More speech. And so as I was building that, boom, there it appears right in front of me, Chris doing a beautiful version. So, okay, that's shelved for a while, my ideas around that, but that's okay. I'll get to do something else. And I feel like the piece that I'll be doing with this is very much reflective of what a lot of people are experiencing right now in isolation. So, you know, it's about timing sometimes, and the right thing comes when it's meant to. So that's what I'm looking forward to finally get an opportunity to do some more Shakespeare in a different way, and it's something that feels incredibly pertinent to what's being experienced in the world now.
Sorry, I just realized I muted myself. I agree with you completely, Mark. I think that's the point of why I kind of put this together as well. And one of the questions people normally get asked is, it's not just what have you always wanted to do in Shakespeare? It's also, what do you want to say to the world through Shakespeare? That's sort of part of the philosophy of Shakespeare Republic. So I'm so excited we finally got you in the fold as well.
Me too.
Going forward. Well, I think Chris has just vacated the space because he's had to go and help teach a class. So I think it's probably time for us to sort of wrap up. So what I'm going to do right now is just do this quick wrap up, and also we get to announce who's also in round 2 of the cast. So everybody that's here, including Chris, who's now not here, are in the first block of episodes, and then we will be doing a second block of episodes with other cast members. And I guess this will just go as long as it goes for this season. But I just want to thank to Chris, who's gone, Phoebe, Laura, Frank, Mark, and Miguel for joining me on the call today. I really appreciate
You're welcome.
No worries. It's lovely to meet everyone.
You did. Bless you all. I'm really excited to have you all involved in the new season and be first cabs off the rank with this. And I'm looking forward to see what we create, which I think we've already started talking about it, and in some cases rehearsing. So it's going to be very exciting, I think. And I've got to say to everyone watching, some of the ideas that are coming up are so cool. Yeah, I am really excited to show you when it's finally ready. So before I go, I want to announce the names of our next group of performers who'll be joining us for the second block of episodes for the season. They've got a lot of time to prepare. They probably won't come into the mix officially for another couple of weeks, but they have been notified. So they come from Scotland, England, New York, and Melbourne. We're hoping to do these kind of intro videos for each block. We'll just see how it goes. But so I'll leave their full biogs until that happens. But the next lot of cast for Shakespeare Republic, All the Webs a Stage for block 2 are Don Bridges, Maya Cohen, Justin Hosking, Mark McMinn, Jessica Martin, Leo Atkin, and Karis Vucek. So they all know who they are, obviously, and they've all been told. But you may notice there's a couple more, there's another couple of names actually from the Show Must Go Online. So this has been very helpful for casting to be a part of that particular initiative, which is Mark McMinn and Leo Atkin. Of course, Leo was with us, Miguel, doing Taming of the Shrew. So they both did beautiful self-tapes, bless them. And yeah, so they're in the mix too. So that'll be the next slot. So it's 7 more. And I suppose I should mention, I potentially am also doing an episode in this first block. We'll just see how stressed I get.
Really?
Whether I know what I want to do if we get there, and I'm just keep earmarking it for down the track. But yes, that's probably, it's looking to be 7 actors per block. So that's probably how it'll work. So I guess we should wrap this up. We've come to the end of the broadcast. I hope everyone enjoyed the chat. Yes, I'm getting the wind up. They're all giving me the wind up. God, I mean, really, respect for the director. It's just not happening over here. Hope you enjoyed the chat. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel so you don't miss anything. Check out our Patreon if you'd like to support the work and the artists involved at this very weird time in world history. And visit the website for this new season, which you'll find at allthewebsastage.com. That again, that's allthewebsastage.com. It's also in the description. And we'll see you online anon. Thank you so much, everybody. Fare thee well.
Adieu. Adieu.
Anon.
Adieu. Parting is such
Good.
Sweet
See you guys. Have a great day. Bye.